Well, there's a lot of confusion on those points. One of the things is the unfortunate history of how the word hell has been used in English, because in the New Testament, there are actually 3 words that talk about stuff that you might associate with hell. One is Hades, which the word hell, it was the name of the Germanic goddess of the dead, and Hades is the Greek god of the dead. And so they both refer to the abode of the dead as these 2 pagan groups saw it. And so it was considered to be a good translation of the Hebrew word Sheol. But the other word was Gehenna, which is just used, transliterated into Greek. And a lot of times when Christ's talking about hell, he's using the word Gehenna, but more often than not, when it's translated as hell in the King James, it's Hades. And they're not talking about the same thing. The third word is Tartarus, which I think is only used once. And that's referring to the place of punishment for the angels. But Hades is just the abode of the dead. And when you read the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, they're both in Hades. They're both in the same place, but they're not experiencing the same thing. This is the abode of the dead. This is before the resurrection of Christ. But those who were getting a foretaste of their reward with the righteous were in the bosom of Abraham, as we call it. And then the rich man was separated by a gulf that separated the one group from the other and was in flame and torment. But he was not in Gehenna yet, because Gehenna is something that people only get put in at the end of the age. That's something that no one is in right now. And so that's the lake of fire, the ultimate place of punishment. And so there's confusion about that. But when you're talking about the rapture, nobody believed in the rapture like Protestants, some Protestants believe, until about 1850. I think it was a guy with the last name Darby who was a Baptist minister who started teaching this. And then it became popularized because of a Confederate veteran, Schofield, produced the Schofield Reference Bible.
Yes.
And the reason why the Schofield Reference Bible was so popular was, I believe it was the only Bible available for a very long time where you had references that explained obscure words in the King James Version. So a lot of people who didn't have any particular theological bent along the lines of Schofield just liked it because when they ran across a word or a phrase that was obscure, they knew that they would have an explanation in the margin that would tell them what the text meant. But he was an advocate of dispensationalism, and so that popularized it. And then more recently, what's the name? The late great Planet Earth guy. His name's escaped me at the moment. It'd probably come to me while we're talking. But he was a big time dispensationalist in the 70s, especially. That book, The Late Great Planet Earth, was very, very popular. He was basically, he saw the end times in terms of the Soviet Union and the United States having a nuclear exchange.
Hal Lindsey.
And Hal Lindsey, that's right. And the Soviet Union invading Israel and getting defeated, and, the communist Chinese, helping them along. And there's this tendency among Protestant prophecy guys that they read the Bible and they've got one eye on the news page. And so whatever's going on, they start trying to connect it to that. So during the Gulf War, they were emphasizing all these references to Babylon and the prophecies and stuff like that. Oh, well, here's the key now. I don't know if the late great Planet Earth is still selling very much, but I'm sure it's been revised quite a bit because a lot of it's outdated. But the idea of a pre-tribulation rapture makes absolutely no sense when you look at it from a traditional perspective, because basically what Hal Lindsey wants you to believe is that surely God would want his people to go through the Great Tribulation to suffer. So he's just going to take them all out right before the Great Tribulation happens. But somehow there are people getting baptized and converting to the Christian faith, even though there's no church for them to be converted by or received by or baptized by. So it makes no sense. The church has gone through many great persecutions, so why would we think that the Great Tribulation would be an exception? And in the book of Revelation, it talks repeatedly about the church suffering during this period of time. So it doesn't make any sense, but it became very popular. And so for a lot of evangelicals, to question the rapture will be right there with questioning the divinity of Christ, the doctrine of the Trinity, and the virgin birth. You don't believe in the rapture? What kind of an atheist are you? But this was something no one believed prior to about 1850.